There is an echo you've been trying to silence, a resonance from deep within your spirit that you've mistaken for noise. Right at this moment, as these words find their way to you, you can feel it not as a weight, but as a hum. A constant vibration in the architecture of your soul, a tension in the melody of your existence. It's the inner commander, forged in old battles, urging you to fortify your walls, double the sentries, and plan for every conceivable siege. But what if the fortress you've been building was never meant to protect you, but to imprison you? What if the very armor you wear, polished and impenetrable, is what prevents the light from getting in? You've been holding a bowstring pulled so taut for so long, aiming at a distant, unseen target, that you've forgotten the arrow's purpose is not to be held, but to be released. You have been navigating by a map of a world that no longer exists, trying to find your way back to a shore that has long since shifted. And the most liberating secret is this: the moment you unstring the bow, the moment you trust the stars instead of the faded map, that is when your true journey begins. This is not a sermon offering absolution, nor a lecture promising simple answers. This is a mirror. It reflects a truth so ancient, it's written in the orbits of planets and the migration of birds. The ultimate victory is not achieved through force of will, but through the profound grace of alignment. By the journey's end, you will recognize the sacred paradox that mystics and poets have whispered through the ages. Sometimes the field must lie fallow to yield a richer harvest. Sometimes the ship must lower its sails to be guided by the true wind. Sometimes you must become empty to finally be filled. But let's be clear, for this is where the path is often lost. I am not speaking of apathy, of resignation, of allowing the weeds to overtake the garden. I am speaking of the most courageous and potent act available to a creator. I am speaking of conscious release, the kind of alchemy that doesn't just open doors, but dissolves the very walls between them. The kind that sees the storm not as an obstacle, but as the very power that will carry you across the ocean. Let me sketch a vision of this in the world you walk through every day. Consider that creative project, that masterpiece inside you that you've been trying to birth through sheer force. You know the one, the book you plan and replan but never write. The art you critique before the first stroke is made. The business you strategize into paralysis. You are holding on to a perfect image in your mind, so afraid that the real-world version will be flawed, that you suffocate it before it can draw its first breath. But what happens when you finally release your blueprint? When you stop commanding the muse and instead invite her to dance? When you trade the tyranny of perfection for the joy of creation, something divine occurs. The project either takes on a life of its own, becoming something more beautiful than you could have ever planned, or it gracefully steps aside, allowing the true masterpiece that was waiting behind it to emerge. Or maybe it's an old identity you can't shed. The good child, the reliable one, the survivor. You've worn it for so long, it feels like your own skin. You carry its expectations, perform its duties, and live within its narrow confines because the thought of being undefined is terrifying. You believe this role keeps you safe, loved, and valued. But that identity is a ghost. It is a monument to a person you no longer are. When you let go of the story of who you were supposed to be, you don't dissolve into nothingness. You create the space to become everything you are. You stop reciting old lines and begin to speak with your own voice, attracting those who are meant for the real you, not the character you've been playing. And then there is the grand illusion, the obsession with the future. The endless branching timelines of what could be, each one meticulously analyzed for threats. You spend your nights negotiating treaties with shadows, preparing for battles that exist only in your mind. But here is the secret that will set your spirit free. You were never meant to be the architect of tomorrow. You are the artist of this very moment. All the energy you pour into charting the unknown seas is energy stolen from the only place you have any power, the sacred, infinite now. The moment you release the fantasy that you can script the future, you discover a deeper trust, a trust in your own resilience to dance with whatever music plays. You always have. This is the great misunderstanding. People equate release with defeat. They believe it means their efforts were in vain, that their dreams were too big. But that is despair, not surrender. And the two are not even in the same universe. True release is a declaration of power. It is a conscious redirection of your life force. It is choosing to stop pouring your magic into a cracked vessel. It is the wisdom to distinguish between the currents that will carry you and the eddies that will trap you. It's the realization that when you cease your war with reality, reality ceases its war with you. Picture a ship at sea. In a storm, the rigid mast is what's most likely to snap, but the sails, which yield to the wind and channel its power, are what give the ship its speed and direction. Your breakthrough is not on the other side of a stronger mast. It is on the other side of learning how to use your sails. Your clarity isn't waiting for you to have all the answers. It's waiting for you to become comfortable with the questions. Your greatest success is not contingent on you fighting harder. It is contingent on you learning the rhythm of the wind and the wisdom of the tide. Right now, a part of you, the oldest part, recognizes the harmony in these words. You feel it as a loosening in your chest, a sense of homecoming, a quiet inner knowing that whispers there is a current and you are part of it. When you finally heed that knowing, when you stop trying to row against the cosmic tide and instead learn to surf it, the universe rearranges itself around you, not in a sudden cataclysm, but with the steady, undeniable grace of a flower turning toward the sun. That career you cling to for its prestige, the one that pays your bills but starves your soul, feels like a fortress. You're afraid that letting it go is stepping off a cliff. But what if it's finally unfurling your wings? When you release the demand for guaranteed outcomes, you open a channel for vocations that feel like worship, for abundance that flows rather than being hunted, for a definition of success that fills you up rather than drains you dry. Or look at that inner critic, the one you've been trying to silence for years. You've debated it, shamed it, tried to exile it, but the more you fight it, the louder it screams. Resistance is its megaphone. What you declare war on becomes your sovereign. When you let go of the battle and instead listen with detached curiosity, with the compassion you would offer a frightened child, its power dissolves. It stops being the tyrant in your head and becomes a simple, tired echo from the past. You don't defeat your demons, you integrate them. You become your own sanctuary. Let this be known. Letting go is not a singular event. It is a practice, like breathing. It is the moment-by-moment choice to unclench your fist around what is gone, so you can receive what is arriving. Some days, the fist will clench again. Some days, the old armor will feel safer than your own bare skin, and that is the dance. That is the human part of this divine process. The mastery is not in never gripping again. The mastery is in the gentle, recurring recognition of the tension and the conscious, loving choice to soften. It is in knowing that your attachment is an illusion, but your connection to the flow is your birthright. Think of a seed. It doesn't fight the darkness of the soil. It doesn't struggle against the shell that encases it. It surrenders to the process. It trusts the darkness. It allows the shell to break, and in that act of surrender, it finds the light. Not through force, but through faith. Not through struggle, but through unfolding. This is your invitation to become that seed, to trust the darkness of the unknown, to allow the old shell of who you thought you were to fall away, to discover that breaking is not the end, but the beginning. And here is the most beautiful part. The moment you truly surrender, the moment you stop demanding and start allowing, the universe rushes in to conspire with you. Synchronicities accelerate. People appear as if on cue, holding keys to doors you didn't even know you were looking for. Answers to long-held questions appear whispered on the wind or written in the clouds. It is as if you've been trying to force a symphony with a single, strained instrument, and in the silence of your surrender, you suddenly hear the entire orchestra that was waiting to play your song all along. The masterpiece was never meant to come from you. It was always meant to flow through you. Your destiny is not a prize to be won. It is a river to be entered. Your happiness is not a reward for your suffering. It is the natural state that emerges when you stop believing you are unworthy of it. Right here, in this breath, is the point of power. Not tomorrow, when you are better. Not next year, when you are ready. Now, in your glorious, imperfect, holy humanity, the great ocean of your life has been patiently waiting. It knows your name. It knows the way home. It is a place far more vast and beautiful than the small harbors you've been afraid to leave. So, let the breath you've been holding finally release. Feel the tension dissolve from your jaw. This is your moment. This is your permission to lay down the weapons of a war that is already over. This is your invitation to open your hands, to trust the voyage, and to discover that letting go is not losing. It is finally, truly winning. The ocean knows where you're going.